PUBG and many other battle royale games come down to your decision making. Sometimes there is a lot of components to it, but the better your decisions that you make, the more that you'll set yourself up for the potential wins. It's critical to be able to determine what was just unlucky and where you could have made a better decision, whether it's actually staying near cover, making sure you're healed or boosted before going into a gunfight, equipping the correct weapons for the right scenarios. There's a lot of different variables that go into every single decision making. That's why you can play the same map so many different times. When I was first starting to learn, though, there was some mistakes that I was consistently making that were causing me to lose my games. If you missed it, check out my first video of this series linked in the top right card or description down below. In this video, though, I wanted to go into a little bit more detail and talk about 5 specific mistakes and how you should be in habits to prevent these. Now, there will be exceptions to these habits from time to time, but these are kind of your best practices to go by. And even with the amount of experience and time that I have in the game, I still screw up from time to time, which leads me to a recent mistake that I even have a clip for you to see. For mistake number 1, forgetting to actively check the HUD information. Even though you can't tell where players are, you can read a lot of information from the data that they give you. The circle location, obviously, so you just stay ahead of where you're going. Every minute or so, check, make sure that you will not die to the blue zone. The time remaining on that circle so you can make the judgment call for it, but more importantly, the number of players remaining. Imagine a game where you didn't have that number and how it would change your overall playstyle. This is a very valuable piece of information, especially when you get into that final circle. Check out this clip. 4 players left. Oh, damn. Was that an Om? He missed the shot. I said he missed the shot because nobody had died after I heard that shot. However, there was a second shot that happened. Now there's only 3 players left. You can clearly see that both in the bottom left and top right corner. However, I was looking at each of these bushes, looking across the fields. I didn't check that information, and now I think that there's still 4 players left. This one starts shooting. I take one out. I'm assuming that there's still 3 players. I spot one up on the top, so I know there's one, but where's the second one? This was my mistake. Had I been looking at that player total alive more often, I would have realized more of what my scenario was. Then losing visual on that guy, I didn't know what was going on. It's 1v1. Did that guy die to play zone, chat? Watching this back, you can clearly see that it was a 1v1. I should have just kept eyes on him, and I could have even seen, if I was looking at that building still, the guy jump off, knew exactly where he was, and taken him out. Looking in the other direction, though, I set myself up for an easy loss. Mistake number 2 is shooting as soon as you see an enemy. Get into the habit of skipping a beat before you shoot an enemy and thinking about if it is the best decision for you to make. Granted, if somebody's open firing at you from close range with a shotgun, feel free to blast them back. This is more for a scenario where maybe you have some tree cover in a foresty zone as the circle's closing in relatively small. You spot somebody over about 200 meters away, just entering the zone as well. Instead of immediately firing as soon as you see them, take a second to think through your options and the trade-offs of each of the decisions. Some of the most important factors in these scenarios should be how much cover do you have and what's the likelihood of you being able to kill this target if you start shooting him. Especially if they're in a squad or a duo, you see somebody poking their head out of a house. If you knock them out, even if you get them, you're very far away. Likely, the partners are just going to be able to revive that enemy, and it probably won't really account for much. Meanwhile, you're completely giving your position away, and if you're in an open field, this is a huge mistake. They're going to be able to fire back at you, knowing incoming fire is coming. If anybody else is near you, proned out, hiding, they're going to start coming in on you. Going back to this initial scenario, though, if you're inside the circle, you have solid cover, you see somebody entering the circle a couple hundred meters out, and there is no cover anywhere near where they're going. It may be the correct decision to take him out. But if he's almost at cover and you only have enough time to put one round from a 5.56 or an AKM into him, then likely he's not going to die unless he's already injured. Likely you would want to just stay stealthed and hold your fire and hope for an opportunity later on where you can get the drop on him. You're going to have more knowledge on the circle than he is, and potentially even somebody else could shoot this guy or be watching him as well. Very often, once you get into those final couple of circles, especially in a solo game, once you shoot and take somebody out, you just gave your position away to everybody else, and because everybody's so close, they're just going to turn back around and shoot you. It can be very difficult being this patient, and sometimes that's not even the right decision to make, but The thing to remember is just think before you shoot. Maybe you should just be running for the circle and shooting will end up getting you killed by the circle. There's a lot of different variables that go into it. Mistake number 3 is always keeping your eyes forward. Your head should really be spinning around on this game, especially if you're playing in third person. The fact that you have a camera that is above the player and you can look 360 while you're running is the reason a lot of people don't like third-person shooters, but you need to take advantage of that fact. Or even if you are playing in first person, this game has a very unique perspective where you can hold down that alt button, left alt, and just look around while your player model's still running in a straight direction. The key is to use it, but what's the best practice for it? To a certain degree, there's going to be some luck here. If you have two players that are running through a field pretty close to each other, and it's just a matter of who spots the other one first based on the trees that you're running past, the bushes, and who happens to be looking at that direction at the right time, then that's what it comes down to. But it's also going to depend on how many people you're playing with. If you have a full squad, then you can have people watch north, south, east, west, each person assigned to a different sector. That being said, of course, if action happens in one direction, your back might be exposed. Generally, one person should call out that they'll watch the flank to make sure nobody else comes up behind them without them knowing. In duos, you could have somebody watch north, one watch south, etc. But in solo, there's not a lot of options that you can do. And in any scenario, it's good to every 100 to 200 meters or so, do a 360 spin just to check to make sure if anybody's running behind you. They might be waiting for you to stop in order to shoot you. And it is good to check your back before stopping. The thing to note, though, is that if it is just a wide open field behind you that is completely empty for 600 meters, then that likely is not going to be a really big threat to you, right? If you're trying to shoot at somebody 600 meters away, say there was somebody way far out there who even had an 8x scope, it's going to be difficult for them to kill you before you could get behind the cover it's going to be in front of you that you'll likely stop at, right? That's not one of your real high priorities, so checking that less often is a fine thing to do. It's going to be relatively more safe because you just checked the field 30 seconds ago. Even if somebody did get there, they're unlikely to shoot you, and really the priority should be whatever is the closest target that players could be hiding behind. So if you have a hill that's pretty close to your right here, you should probably check that more often, because if somebody just pops their head over, they're going to kill you very quickly. You need to spot them first. If there's a bunch of trees that you're coming up to right ahead of you, very close, your focus should be entirely in front of you to make sure that if somebody pops out behind one of those trees, you can take them down before they hit you. If you're running through a field and there's more woods on the right-hand side, that should be some place that you should be scanning much more often, because there could be an area that you miss, whereas if the left side is just completely open, just checking that every once in a while should do the trick, because you should be able to spot the person very quickly if they're running out in the open field. Ideally, whatever the densest part is, whatever would be the hardest part to find, wherever people could get the best advantage on you the fastest, or if you're coming up to a building, some houses, woods, that's where your eyes should be. If you run into a compound and you're looking backwards to make sure nobody's flanking you from an open field, you're just wasting your time when people could be in your immediate, right in front of you. Mistake number 4 is looting right out in the open. This goes for revives as well, and it even has to do with just reviving or looting in combat. Now, if you're completely out of ammo and you can't do anything without a gun, you only have a pan, then go run in with the pan, you hero. No, you need to actually loot. This could be a scenario where you actually you have to do it. But looting enemies was one of the most common ways that I was dying at the beginning, especially once you get up to like top 20, especially in top 10. I didn't even know what I wanted when I was going to the body. I would open it up, start flipping through it. I thought it was safe because it was behind a rock where I just killed the guy, and then boom, my head falls off my shoulders, and I can't play like that anymore. I then changed my playstyle to if I have armor, if I have a helmet, and I have ammo, then I can win with that scenario. Right? I don't really need much more loot at this point. And even if I did need some meds or whatnot, you could win the game with 1 health. You don't always have to heal. And the same thing when it goes for revives. If you have a player knocked out, you're going to pin yourself down for 10 seconds going for that revive. If it's out in the open, you absolutely should not be going for that revive. You should be trying to take that target out, making the shots, and that's kind of where your accuracy and aim comes into play more. If you are more accurate, can shoot faster than the other guy, then you could win that fight, even if you're out in the open. even if your partner's knocked out. This can be a hard decision to make when the body that you're trying to loot is in cover, or the player that you're trying to revive is in cover as well. The problem is, what players will do, and what I recommend you do as well, is you can use those downed players or recent kills that you witness. You can use that as bait. So when the player does go to loot that body, it's going to be a free kill for you. Or if you don't finish off that knocked out enemy, you could potentially take out his teammate as he goes to revive if your partner has a different angle behind that tree, for example. In summary, you want to stay in the habit of staying alert and ready to shoot at the end rather than getting caught up, sitting still, reviving somebody, or looting. And finally, the fifth mistake is getting tilted. Getting upset, whether it's at your last game or how you played it, you should really just be pissed at blue. Even the best players in this game do not have a 100% win rate. And when you look at some of those top players, they might have higher percentages, they might have high kills. A lot of that is just because of the aiming skill that a lot of players have. But there's always going to be a certain factor of luck, a certain factor of hindsight that looks like it was such an easy decision not to do it, but you just don't have all the information to make those best decisions. And that's just how it goes. You got to make the highest probability plays. But regardless, losing can suck, especially if it was something that was lag or some other issue, but there's also nothing that you can do about it. So maintaining a cool and going into the next game is the ideal way to go. At least for me personally, I know when I get very frustrated, my aim will start getting bad. I'll start getting impatient, which is what you need in this game, is patience. And I'll start breaking the previous rules, shooting at enemies that I shouldn't be, and rushing into scenarios that I shouldn't be, ultimately just leading to more deaths. All of this, I hope, is good information. It's stuff that I still try and keep in mind as I'm playing the game and learning, that you can watch and rewatch to help you as you play through, save you some frustration that I've been through. And I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop it a like. It's greatly appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you are new to catch all of my latest content. That's for this one, though. I'll see you guys soon. This is StoneMount64. Over and out.